joining us this morning.
Thank you for having me.
If you can just very briefly explain to us what exactly you do.
Okay, so I work a full-time corporate job at Uber, and on top of that, I'm a part-time content creator as well. And on the side, I run a small business for pre-loved clothing called Lux by Rashmika.
Right. So Rashmika, basically now when it comes to pre-loved clothing,
Yeah.
how lucrative is it, and where do you see it going in terms of, say, improving within the next couple of years in the Sri Lankan market?
Right. So basically, pre-loved clothing the industry has grown compared to, let's say, 5 years ago. And definitely why pre-loved clothing is something unique is because when it comes to especially women's clothing. So if you go to, let's say, a designer and you get like a one-of-a-kind piece, right? And let's say when you buy that, someone else doesn't have the chance to buy that. Then what happens is if you, let's say, sell it as something that is pre-loved, then someone else has the chance to get their hands on it as well. So that unique concept is also there in it as well. So because I also feel that, a lot of garments have a story to tell, right? So if you want to, sell that to somebody else, not only, for me personally, I feel like if I can sell my clothes, which have been designed for me to someone else, I find great happiness in that because I do it as an individual. But of course, there are different websites also in the Sri Lankan market that do sell pre-loved clothes. And I feel that if it is marketed properly in a certain sense, then definitely pre-loved clothing can grow. It is just that in Sri Lanka, Sri Lankan people have this stigma like it's second hand. So
Correct.
I don't want to buy it, right? Because it's not good enough for my social status or something like that, right? But the truth is in European countries, in Western countries, it's something cool. It's not something, to be ashamed of or something like that. But in Sri Lanka, a lot of girls, when I say, okay, do you want to buy something from me? They're just like, no, because it's second hand. So there are, ladies like that who say, okay, I don't want to buy it. But it is changing. I'm not saying no. It is definitely changing. And also, I feel like depending on how someone can market pre-loved clothing, definitely it can grow. So, yeah.
And it's a very sustainable model.
Very sustainable. The thing is, Sri Lankans don't really know much about this recycling, upcycling.
Right.
Those concepts are still very new here. So if there are people who understand that concept, but it's very limited.
What made you get into the pre-loved clothing industry?
Okay, that's a good question because now a lot of, brand work for a lot of fashion brands, girls used to message me and ask me, are you selling these clothes? Right. And then at the start, I was a bit like, no, I'm not very interested in it. But then I realized there is a market out there. There were girls, sending me DMs and asking, can we buy this? We're willing to buy it. So they're willing to spend on certain pieces. So I had certain designer pieces that girls wanted to purchase from me as well. Or let's say I have something that is out of stock in a store that they are looking for. Then I would have that. Then they can just come to me and get that item. Right. So that's how I started my page separately for that.
And do you source it in a particular way, as in do you go and physically inspect each and every particular garment, or is there any other way that you get it down?
Okay, so basically right now the concept of my clothing brand is I sell only my clothes.
Right.
Because one thing is I have built a certain brand, a certain marketing around it. I'm very particular that I give whoever who's buying from me something of good quality. End of the day, I don't want someone saying, I bought this from Rashmika who gave me something awful, right?
It's going to hurt your brand.
It's going to hurt my brand and it's going to hurt my main content creation page as well. So because of that, for now, I'm only sourcing clothes that I own. So basically, I'm only selling whatever I have. But I have seen that there are girls who require different sizes. And I go as a size extra small to small. So there are girls who want medium, large, extra large. So I am looking at sourcing those sizes as well in the near future. But I'm looking at a good source that I can get it from as well. Someone who knows to maintain their clothes.
Right.
Yes.
And to add on to that, Rashmika, it is a great sustainable aspect in terms of recycling and using pre-loved clothing.
Yes.
What do you think, or if there is anything you could recommend, say, is there a way that it could be branded differently, as in, say, like sustainable clothing or some other way as opposed to saying pre-loved, because as in Sri Lanka there is a sort of a stigma when it comes to pre-loved, that as you
Pre-loved.
mentioned earlier.
Yes,
So
yes.
is there a way to say negate that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, you can go about it as sustainable clothing, but end of the day, when somebody comes and sort of inquires, I'm talking from my experience, when someone comes and asks me, okay, where is this from? I have to say it's something that I own.
Right.
Once again, we go back to that concept of pre-loved. So it is more of an aspect of people understanding what the whole concept is about. Because even if you rebrand it as, I can always say, okay, my clothes are, sustainable. At the end of the day, they are going to keep going round and round asking you, where are the clothes from? Then I have to end up on the topic of it being pre-loved. So basically, it's a matter of people being educated on that topic, end of the day.
I think moving from that model of fast fashion is becoming more and more popular because people are being more and more aware of damage it does.
Damage it does, definitely.
Agreed, 100%.
Definitely. And fast fashion is definitely getting rejected globally. So even in Sri Lanka, I feel like it is slowly coming in. People are understanding this whole concept of fast fashion and why it's not a good thing. But still, majority of the population are under that impression that, they want something new. Of course, it's nice to have something new, I understand. But at the same time, what my main goal is, I want to sell my pre-loved clothes in its best condition. So that someone who buys it from me will feel it is brand new.
Correct.
And my concept is basically, I sell anything that is worn only once.
Right.
And all my clothes are properly laundered and pressed and given in the best condition. So,
brilliant.
Yes.
And it also helps to know that a particular person is using, as opposed to getting, let's say, a large bulk of it where you don't know where it's been from.
Yes,
so that
that's
sort of
true. Because even the people who actually inquire with me, they ask me, okay, you have this item, where did you buy it from?
Correct.
So then I say, okay, I bought it from this store. So then they have a certain amount of, confidence as well.
Yeah, I think that's one of the main things when you buy something that's pre-loved, whether it's clothes, any other good, you'd probably want to know where it comes from and who's been using it, just to sort of that sort of assurance.
Rashmika, you're also a social media influencer. Yes. Can you tell us in Sri Lanka what are the specific challenges that are applicable to female content creators and influencers?
Okay, so I do part-time content creating, and I think one of the biggest problems that I think females face in the industries, I mean, personally I've experienced this, they're not taken very seriously. Like, for example, now when I talk to certain people, like they'll be like, she's just an influencer or a content creator, in a very like degrading manner, which is not true. Content creation requires so much of work, so much of editing, and basically making something that is not nice look nice. That's basically what content creating is, right? So you're basically just marketing, right? So it's a lot of work, and I think people don't really know the effort that goes into doing content creation. And I have mad respect for people who do it full time, because it's so much work. The edits, everything that you do, right? Just, you have to take one shot like 4 or 5 times. By the time I do a food review, my food is cold. I can't even eat the food, right? But I have to get the best shot, the best angles. So it's a lot of work, and I feel like it's very underappreciated. At the same time, I feel like female content creators face a lot of issues in terms of harassment and bullying, online bullying. I mean, if a girl does a video for some product, you go on TikTok, half the comments are on something else. About their body or their looks or something.
That's a sad part.
So that's a very sad thing, because that particular content creator is trying to promote a brand. And end of the day, it just ends up, them being, harassed online, which is then additional pressure for content creators, because then they feel, I mean, some are immune to it over time, but end of the day, online harassment does psychologically affect a person. So I think online bullying is a big problem that I think female influencers face.
I agree. I mean, it's a big issue in the country as well that needs to be addressed properly. And also, have you come across anyone, or have you personally faced any catcalling, especially given the fact that you're also a very prominent influencer?
Yes, online. Yes, I have had comments that come up, but it's not, I mean, I think back then it used to be quite a lot. Especially during this COVID time and all, when you upload picture, I think everyone had time to be online. So, you'd see all sorts of comments coming up, but most of these comments come from accounts that don't even have a profile picture. So in that case, what I can say is you can't really even consider that person as, a serious issue.
Right.
But I have not faced it in a big way, but I do know people who have really had problems in terms of very harsh comments being put. And I think it's quite a lot on TikTok as well.
I've heard, Rashmika, like one of these content creators who, especially when it comes to politics, who do political content. Right? It's very difficult to engage in those conversations because people have very drastically polarizing views.
Yes.
Something that a particular podcaster said was to post and forget about it.
Yes.
Is that something that you as a content creator can do, or?
Over time, yes, that is the strategy that even I use, because sometimes, when I do post something, I don't get comments, I get DMs.
Right.
That's a bit worse, because then you're kind of engaging in a conversation. And then that conversation can escalate. Whereas a comment, sort of, you can tend to, there are options. You can either delete the comment or you can just forget about it, right? Because if you don't engage, you can't really, do anything about it. But when somebody personally DMs you, I feel like that puts a lot of pressure, because, somebody has taken that time to literally message you personally about it.
Yeah.
But yes, over time, I think content creators have learned to sort of navigate through it. And definitely, if you want, you can report the account. That option is also there. If you feel that person's continuously harassing you, you definitely report the account. But over time, I think a lot of people have sort of learned to become immune to it and sort of forget about it as well, because you can't really change people's perceptions on things.
Correct.
So, yes.
Right. I have one more question, which was not scripted. Is like, now going back to your business of pre-loved clothing.
Yes.
What is the biggest challenge as a startup sort of entrepreneur for you?
I think when it comes to, the funding is very minimal, so there's no problem with it. I'm just selling the clothes I have. Occasionally I boost my posts, and that's a small financial investment there. The biggest problem I had, as I explained before, was the sizing problem. Because a lot of inquiries I get, I see a big market there, but I'm looking at a way of kind of reaching that market in the future. So I think that is a challenge for me, because I need to source the clothes from someone reliable for those sizes. And also I have a specific type of taste when it comes to fashion, and I think a lot of girls really like that. So I need to source very similar type of clothing. Because not everybody has the same taste in clothes. I mean, taste varies, right? So they are coming to me because they like my sense of fashion and they want to sort of purchase those clothes. So if I'm getting it in bigger sizes, I need to make sure that it's that same size. Kind of taste in fashion that I kind of source from. So that is a challenge that I'm having at the moment.
Interesting.
Yes.
And again, another question which I'm going to bounce off you.
Yes.
So you've basically worked with many brands. You don't have to name any of them at the moment, but have any of them sort of dishonored in terms of payment or in terms of deviated from whatever script that you have been given?
Or agreement
or anything of that nature? Yes.
I'm very fortunate in that sense. That has not happened to me. But I do know people that have had these issues. Late payments. Fortunately, I've not had that problem also, but a lot of content creators have late payments coming in as well.
Right.
And definitely it's a lot of work. That's like working a 9-to-5 job, and end of the day, on the 25th, if you don't get your salary, a very similar situation. And so once again, I feel the problem there is why they have these late payments is they just don't take this work seriously.
Correct. And to add on to that as well, I mean, Sanka, there are instances where I too personally know a few people who haven't been paid for 3 months, 2 months, They just, some of the clients tend to take it very casually and extend the length period.
Yes.
I think in marketing work in general,
this problem is there, especially with clients.
Correct.
I think even the advertising industry, some time ago, I can remember I had a very close friend who used to get payments really, really late, like sometimes 6-7 months for.
And it's very normal for them.
Very normal. It's very difficult for, I mean, if you're an individual, it's extremely difficult to survive because, you know, you have bills to pay.
Exactly.
You have to buy, you know, food, groceries, etc.
I think that's also because they feel there's nobody else accountable from
Accountable,
your end.
correct. That's the thing.
So then they feel, okay, I can just keep pushing this person and like, you know, extending the length of time that you can be paid. So
that is true.
One more question, again not scripted, Rashmika, it just popped into my mind.
Excuse me.
I've also seen online where there is some sort of like renting clothes businesses.
Oh yeah.
So what do you think that kind of model can be successful in Sri Lanka, or is that still difficult or still further away?
Certain types of clothing that will work, like blazers.
Okay.
You can rent blazers, you can rent saris.
Right.
I'm saying sari without the jacket because the jacket usually depends on the size of the body. But the sari can be rented. Yes.
Is that a booming market as well?
It is there, but it's not as much as, you know, the pre-loved clothing thing. But definitely renting works for certain types of clothing. Right. It can't work for everything. And also, if that is to grow, if renting clothes, then you have to be more specific. You have to have a certain disclaimer because, you know, the person who is returning the clothes has to return it in the same condition.
Correct.
Otherwise, you will have to kind of either charge a fine or something like that, a penalty charge or something like that. Correct. But you can't sort of do it for all types of clothing because it's not a very practical thing. Like if you're selling like a small top or something, renting a top doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But maybe you can rent saris, maybe evening dresses, things like that.
I think that's where the business is mostly.
The occasion wear.
Yeah, occasion wear.
So that will work well. But once again, the problem there is you're taking a risk. You're giving the clothes out there. That person's return it. Is he going to return it in the same condition? So that is, I think, the only challenge in that particular area.
Yeah, I think when it comes to menswear, the suits and things like that has been like a model in the US or in England since like the 80s, 90s.
Yes,
I think even longer. Because it's just very simple design and everybody wears the same thing. And I think how it works there is the insurance covers damages.
Yes. So
I don't know whether that sort of model is available.
Yes.
Maybe something to see in the future.
Yes, definitely.
Anyway.
So Rashmika, I'm going to ask you another question, which is part of the earlier question. So most girls in Sri Lanka do face problems in terms of being catcalled or physically harassed, apart from their social media or online aspect as well.
Yeah.
Have you personally faced any instances like this?
No, I haven't. But I do know a lot of people who have faced it. I have got catcalled on the road, but not when I've traveled in a cab or something like that. But I know a lot of people who've gone through it, and it's personally a lot of pressure because I think girls in Sri Lanka have got used to being, you know, coached in a certain way, you know, dress properly and go, right? Now, I know my friends, when I go out with them, they're like, okay, if they come in something like a strappy top or something, they come with a shawl or something because they are afraid of being, you know, catcalled or being harassed, let's say when they're going in a tuk, right? So that psychological pressure is there for them to conform to a certain way just to avoid being catcalled. But the whole purpose is you should be able to go freely in public transport or in any kind of transport without having to have that additional pressure of kind of building this barrier, right? Or as a woman, you need to put up a tough front, you know, like if you know, so that the driver won't come and, you know, tell you something, right? Because I know personally that, you know, if you come and tell them, okay, you want a card hire or something, and then they just start, you know, scolding you in all the, you know, it's like verbal abuse, right? Because they're like, we want to put a cash ride and here you put card. And personally, girls get scolded. So I know girls who just put a cash ride just to avoid that, you know, confrontation, right? So I think that is additional unnecessary pressure that is there, because ideally, if a certain service is there and you can select card or cash, you should have that freedom to do so without having to feel, now if I put this card, will I get scolded by the tuk driver, you know, things like that. But I've also noticed that this is less when you go in cabs rather than going in tuks. So I've also noticed this difference. But yes, ideally there is a lot of pressure for a girl traveling alone in public transport, especially in buses. When you go in the bus, the guy that is there happens to come here in 5 minutes, and the next thing you know, you're being
really
harassed.
sad.
So,
Yeah.
so that's also
it's a very big problem. I think.
very
It
big
is a big
problem. But the
problem.
only good thing is, I think when you go in public transport, like in the bus and all, actually people are against these kind of things. So if somebody does harass a girl and she is vocal about it, people, you know, the person is just put out of the bus. So that is there. But then again, it's traumatic because once you go through something like that, there is a certain trauma, a certain fear that builds up, and then you just don't want to take that public transport again. So that problem is there.
And it contributes to so many other issues.
So many other things, and that's something that, you know, that psychological trauma has lasting impacts.
Yeah.
So
because what it does is then you remain very conscious about it, even though you do take that mode of transport again. But you're very versatile and very conscious.
Of where you're going, and I think more than that, it has a certain impact.
It does.
And you know, you're always very suspicious of everyone. That
correct.
happens. Yes.
So the last question for the day.
Yeah.
There are so many influences coming up.
Yes.
The new trend is that pretty much.
Yes.
How would you say? I mean, you're into a particular category that is fashion and food, I presume.
Yeah.
So when an influencer comes into the scene, how do you feel they would take a particular path? As in, whether it's travel, whether it's fashion, or any other aspect of it. How do you think they would look at it?
Yeah. So first of all, it's very important that someone should find out what they're good at, and because once you find out what you're good at, you can actually deliver on that. For example, if I'm asked to do something out of food or fashion or something out of my forte, I don't know if I'll be able to do that well. Right? So it's important to find out what you like, what you're good at, then it doesn't even feel like work, honestly, right? But in order to do that, you have to explore everything to understand what kind of brands you enjoy working with. So in that case, even for me, it took some time for me to figure out that, you know, I like fashion, I like doing food reviews. Like that comes over time. Like once you work with certain brands, you can figure out what you're good at, and then you can focus on that. And then definitely when you have a rate card, you can definitely, even on your rate card, you can focus on what areas you specialize in.
Right.
So once again, then, and also if you have maybe a specific set of content, like let's say in my case, I do fashion, then more fashion brands approach you because they understand, okay, this is what this content creator does, this is what she's good at. So if they are also a fashion brand, we can approach her. So that's the thing. Yeah.
So do the brands directly approach you, or is it through agencies that
so far directly.
Directly,
yes.
All right, I think
that sums about it.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Rashmika.
Thank you for having me on this show.
Pleasure. Thank you again. So that's pretty much it.
Thank you very much, Rashmika, for joining us once again.